In Michigan, they're purging old, obsolete laws from their books. But one came up that, perhaps not surprisingly, saw some pushback from GOP lawmakers. They want to continue penalizing cohabitation before marriage.
The punishment is up to a year in prison and a fine of up to $1,000. The crime? Lewd and lascivious cohabitation, aka people living together out of wedlock. Gasp.
The law in question states any unmarried man or woman living together can be sentenced to a year in jail or a $1,000 fine. Of course, the law is from 1931 and it doesn't hold up in a modern society. And that's even before you take the LGBTQ community into consideration, which the law obviously does not. But with Democrats taking control of the Michigan Congress last year, they're looking to update some things.
This legislative session is the first time in 40 years that Democrats in Michigan have been in control of the state house and the state senate and the governor's mansion, and they are using their newfound power to do a little legislative spring cleaning, shall we say. They are getting rid of old zombie laws that just don't make sense anymore here in this 21st century of ours. And you would think this one would be unanimous. It is not. Today, again, in the year 2023, 9 Republicans in the Michigan State Senate voted against repealing this law. 2 Republicans even gave floor speeches about why laws like these are necessary to promote what one of them called, quote, good morals.
9 Republicans oppose purging this particular law because they're not actually the party of preservation or conservation. They are the party of regression. Now, keep in mind, by the way, that this law isn't actively being enforced in the state of Michigan, so keeping it around isn't really making much of a difference anyway. But according to some Michigan Republicans, these laws are necessary to promote good morals, whatever that means for these particular Michigan Republicans.
I have to imagine the statute was enacted in order to encourage marriage, which is a good end, through an unjustified means.
Republican State Senator Thomas Albert said that he merely objected to the possibility that unmarried people would get the same tax benefits as married people. That's actually funny because in our modern era, a lot of young people don't really see the upside of getting married anymore. The only tangible benefit to getting married that anyone can ever come up with is for the tax benefits, and even that isn't a very hard sell. That line of thinking also speaks to, let's call it marital exceptionalism, the idea that married people deserve benefits over unmarried people, that married couples are somehow better than unmarried couples. But the reason why one would think that married couples are better than unmarried couples is rooted in religion. So it's not really a surprise that both religious affiliation and marriage are declining amongst millennials and Gen Z. The religious reasons for getting married are obvious. You have to be righteous in the eyes of God. You can't engage in premarital sex, even though younger people are often choosing to delay marriage until their 30s and 40s, once they've gotten their degrees and stabilized their incomes. But if living in sin isn't a concern for you, there are so many other reasons as to why one would choose not to get married. In full disclosure, I am an unwed millennial woman who lives with a man that I am not married to. I'm not completely against the idea of marriage, and maybe one day I will get married. But my personal reasons for doing so are just that. They're personal. If and when I get married, it won't be because my government is making me do so. And it certainly won't be because I somehow feel immoral or less than in the eyes of someone else's God by remaining unwed. With modern marriages, you can usually split them into 2 aspects. You have the religious ceremony with the religious leader of your choice, and then you have to sign the papers, the government documents. Some people today choose to forego the religious aspect of things and instead focus on cultural traditions or non-denominational practices. Or some just do the religious stuff regardless of how convicted they are or are not in their religious beliefs, or how invested they are or are not in their church. I actually went to a wedding recently and a Japanese girl was there. She had been living here in the US for a while, but this was her first American wedding. And before the wedding started, she said to me, "You know what's so funny about Americans? You're not religious, but you do all the religious stuff." And I was like, yeah, we do. Anyway, if you remove the religious side of things, the governmental aspect on its own offers some societal and financial benefits, which is another argument that people will make when telling young people to get married. There is discussion as to how society and individuals will suffer from an increasing number of unmarried people. But if that's the case, then the solution shouldn't be to pressure people into marriages. It should be to adjust and adapt the systems that are already in place to better reflect and benefit the modern American populace. But that's a lot of work. Better to just force archaic beliefs on a population rather than modernize. Better to preach about good morals while members of your own party protect and revitalize institutions like child marriages and child labor. Better to waste taxpayer time and resources with culture war grifts rather than actually serving the public in a meaningful way. What's the big picture here? The Republican Party celebrates and pedestals people who have no business serving the public. The Republican Party jams legislation through that they know isn't popular even among their own constituents. The Republican Party talks about Christian nationalism like it isn't a fascist doctrine. They baffle Americans with their obvious and unapologetic hypocrisy, essentially gaslighting an entire nation by saying one thing and then doing another. They claim to want to protect the children, but only from drag shows, not from guns. They claim to champion family values, but they'll gladly look the other way if not defend serial cheaters, misogynists, and abusers. What's happening is that they know their platform is unpopular. They have access to the same numbers and stats and polls that we do. They know that the nation is in trouble, but they also know that it's not for the reasons that they say it is. They know that the solutions they offer to problems are dumb, and they know that the problems they choose to focus on aren't actual problems. How much energy and time and money did they spend peddling the big lie without a single one of them presenting any credible evidence to support the claims they were making? How much stress and anxiety did they knowingly induce in this country with their gotcha tweets and their rally stump speeches? And we all sit here scratching our heads wondering, don't they know they're out of touch? Don't they know that they're unpopular? Of course they know. They literally don't win popular votes. They know. And they don't care. The only thing they care about is winning by whatever means possible, even if that means emotionally manipulating and exhausting the public with culture wars and inflammatory speech, systematically dumbing down the population with educational interference and book bans, or blatantly limiting people's quote-unquote inalienable rights by professing higher moral standing and religious privilege. Videos like this one that call them out for being hypocritical or being out of touch or whatever don't matter to them because they're not trying to appease me. They don't get embarrassed, they're not humiliated, and they don't even care if we see through them. They're not trying to be inclusive because they want exclusivity. They want an empowered upper class. They want minority rule. They want whatever form of government that is. But it's certainly not a democracy. And the Democrats need to fight harder. All right, that's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like and subscribe, and be sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you.